make sure that regardless of where our kids live, whether it be in Southeast Side or West Park or Collinwood or Mount Pleasant or Union Miles, that our young people had access to a high quality education. Number two, we wanted to make sure that there were trades programs, apprenticeship programs, not just on the west side, like we got at Max 8, but on the east side as well too. You wanted to make sure that kids didn't have to take 2 or 3 buses to get to a good quality high school, and you want us to make sure we prioritize safety when our kids are going to school, safe when in the building, and safe when they come home, right? So that mandate was clear to me. The problem, though, is we lost 50% of our student population over the last 20 years. So in the early 2000s, we had roughly 70,000 young people going to CMS. Now we have roughly 35,000 students at CMS. So what does that mean? Well, let's talk about Collinwood. Collinwood was built for 1,100 young people to go to school there every single day.
Right.
The average daily attendance rate, not the enrollment, but the average daily attendance rate is 96 students. 96. So as you know, it costs the same amount of building, the same amount of money to heat and cool a building for 1,100 kids as it does for 96. Right? So for the last 2 decades, we've been spreading our resources like peanut butter. So that means that in some high schools, there's not access to computer tech or dual enrollment so our young people can get college credit before they go off to college. That means in some high schools they don't have band or PE or all the sports they want to have access to. That also means in some middle schools, young people aren't getting access to Algebra 1 before they go to high school. If you think about the kind of skills our kids need to compete and put food on the table, make good money, and have good access to good quality education and good jobs, we aren't doing our part, right? And so the Building Brighter Futures plan is going to give us the resources, the investment, and the strategy we need to make sure our kids are ready for college, career, and life. And so while I know these decisions are hard, this is about making a down payment for folks like this young man so that they have access to what they need to have access to achieve their God-given potential. So that's why I'm here to talk about this plan, what it means for me as mayor, and what it means for the future of our city. And I'm happy to take any questions you guys might have. Sir?
On the issue of Collinwood, I went there, as we talked last week.
Yeah.
I've been there 30 years. The framework of being at Collinwood 30 years ago, they did have bands.
Yeah.
They did have a program for students to become school teachers. When I left, Bill Martin was principal at the time, and he gave me something real good. I was the first kid at that time to get the principal award. It's been now 30 years. But making story short, my thing is this: if you put Collinwood and Glenville together, maybe that will stem a little bit, because that's what, like you said, the school is built for a lot of students.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how their structure is. Well, I know Collinwood is big enough that you said, it's big enough to house both students. But my question for you is, they got a woodshop back there. To my understanding, on the first floor, they're after the office is, where the office was. I mean, they had a woodshop program, not a woodshop program, they had a classroom setting for a woodshop. But as far as Kentucky, I mean, the question I want to ask is, would these, if you combine both schools, would they, if you use Collinwood, for example, you can have that for a woodshop program, automobile, bring in Ford Motor Company, for example, bring in GM, for example. I mean, something that these kids learn a trade before they go to the workforce. Like my union local, we get our guys together, and they want to go to school they can.
Yeah.
But for instance, this young man Dave right here, as he gets much older, maybe he wants to get a union job, and that's an encouragement. They get a union job.
Great question. So the plan for Collinwood is and Jerry, if we chime in, if you want to chime in on this as well, I'll put you on the spot. The plan is to build a brand new high school by 2031. And in that new high school, we're going to have apprenticeship programs and trades programs, just like we have on the west side of the United States. The other thing we're going to do, I hear from a lot of young people, and some have actually dropped out of high school because they're making more money cutting hair, doing nails. They want to get involved in cosmetology, right? You know, right now we don't have a dedicated cosmetology program inside of the CMSD High School.
And no barber program.
And no barber program. So we're going to put a cosmetology program at John Adams High School in the southeast side, right? And so we want to make sure that we have pathways to the trades, pathways to the apprenticeship programs, pathways to medical careers like we have at West and Metro Health in that partnership. All those things are part of the strategy. And so when I heard from voters 4 years ago, hey, why we only have a trades program on the west side? We heard it loud and clear. We're going to have one on the east side. And we're going to work with industry and business organizations to really make sure we support those programs inside of that high school.
And my next question is, if you want to do something about Commonwealth, is it possible that we can preserve all the memories?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking to the board about how we preserve those memories from Commonwealth High School and other high schools or schools that may close or be consolidated or merged.
Because I know when I was going there, I mean, if you go inside there, there's a trophy trove.
Yeah, and that won't go away. We'll find a way to preserve that legacy. And the other thing I'll say is working very closely with the board on having a repurpose plan for those 18 school buildings that are going offline. Right? Just like we've done with the OJ High School in the Harbor neighborhood, that's going to be a brand new mixed-use development for the Harbor neighborhood. The same strategy we've done for folks at JFK. It's the same thing we might do for the Collin High School and the other 17 buildings that are going offline.
In the conversation that I've had in all of my shops and other barbershops, safety. Again, when I open this up, these are two great communities, two pride communities, as they should be. But the street elements have been at war with each other for a number of years. So a lot of parents are worried about safety of the youth.
Listen, I would say this. We as adults have to do a better job of changing this narrative around. We have to get out of this legacy mindset that these high schools inherently are gangs. And that our children, because they go to high schools, are going to bring that mentality to this community. Safety is much more important across the city. Starting in 2022, after we had a tragic shooting outside of John Adams High School, we stood up a safety coordination committee between City Hall, my command staff, and the police department, leadership at CMSD Police, RTA Police, and grassroots organizations like Recess, Icons, and others who work with us on violence prevention efforts across the entire city. So every quarter right now, we are working very closely on how do we make sure our young people are safe inside of our schools. And we deploy violence prevention organizations and teams inside of all of our high schools. Right, so we're keeping a pulse of what's going on. Right, and we're working with all the schools that are affected by this new plan on individualized transportation plans for all families. And we've been working very closely with our safety teams to make sure that we have a plan in place once these schools go offline and once we merge these cultures. But it's going to be up to the adults in the room and the principals to help us create the right culture. Right, and it starts with us. Yeah, that's my part. I agree with you. Yeah.
There's a lot of women around.
And introduce yourself.
I'm Laura Collin, community activist. Hi guys.
Hey, Laura.
I see nothing but the brothers in the house. It's still good.
Yeah, that's good. That means we're stepping up.
Right.
Thank you for addressing the safety issue. That is what a lot of parents are concerned about. How do you kids want to get to the schools? Are they bus or?
Yes.
Okay.
So for all of our scholars, CMSD provides buses up until high school, and then we work with RTA to provide free transportation to our people who want to take the bus to high school via RTA. We're also extending, CMSD is an open enrollment choice district, so you can live anywhere in the city and choose where you want to go to elementary school or high school. we're also opening up that choice portal for an additional 2 weeks. So it'll be an 8-week process to give families ample time to plan around transit, around what makes sense for young people as we go through the process. Yeah. See anybody else has something for Larry?
What's going on? How you doing, Mayor Bibb? How does the dismantling the federal level of the Department of Education entrusting your decision as far as the school systems at the local level?
It's a big reason why we're making this choice right now. As you know, the federal government, folks in the room, the federal government is looking to dismantle the Department of Education. So that means less funding for CMSD for special ed programs inside of our schools, less money for after-school programs for young people, less money for free and reduced lunch and healthy lunches and breakfasts inside our schools. So we have cuts coming down from the federal government and at the state level as well. They are contemplating eliminating property taxes in Ohio, which would devastate CMSD. They're also contemplating eliminating the income tax in the state of Ohio, which will limit our ability to provide high-quality basic city services at the city because 60% of the general revenue fund that our city is funded by the income tax. Right? So that goes away, property tax goes away. We're facing some major challenges, fiscal challenges across the entire city. And with this plan, we're going to save roughly $150 million, right, over the next 4 years, so to make sure we have the sustainability we need as a district and as a city to provide resources to young people. So I'm not trying to outsource our destiny to the state or federal government. We got to be the masters of our own destiny, and this plan does that. Yeah. Jerry, anything you want to add as a board member?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say it's so important as a board member to hear from the community. So thank you, Mr. Waverly. Thank you, Mayor Bibb. Thank you, everyone. I really show up to these type of conversations to hear from the community as an effort to make sure that as we're going through this process, considering all this data, considering all these decision points, that we're informed by what the community wants also. It's important to hear from who have concerns, who have safety concerns and transportation concerns or what have you, so that we can take all of that stuff into account. So I'm just here to hopefully hear from everyone and take in what people have as concerns, and then help do my part. I'm a CMSD graduate. I went to John Marshall, class of 2001.
1993.
Marshall in the house, huh?
Exactly.
My children attend CMSD schools right now. I have 3 children, and one graduated and 2 more that's in CMSD schools right now. So these decisions are very near and dear to me. My biggest critics are my children. When we made the vote last year regarding the calendar changes, my children was very much impacted by that. And I had to hear very directly from them their perspective, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate this role that I've been trusted to play. So I'm happy to hear from you, just so that we can make the right decisions for our community.
Billy.
Yeah. So, Mayor, can you talk about the tough decision when it came to the 18, talking about merging or closing 18, given that in the backdrop we have a declining population, there's a tough decision that needed to be made, fairly difficult to satisfy everybody. When you look at 18 schools that you have to close around the city of Cleveland, so people think it was a haphazard process. Can you kind of talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I'll talk briefly about that, and maybe Jerry wants to chime in since he was really at the forefront of being a member of the board. I wish we did not have to make this decision. I wish we were talking about expanding the number of schools we had because our population is growing. I want that growth problem as a city over the next 5 years. But unfortunately, folks, we've delayed these hard choices for the last 2 decades. We had an opportunity before the pandemic to take some buildings offline and save money, and we passed the buck. Cleveland has gotten used to passing the buck for a long damn time. And because we've been afraid to make hard choices, our young people in our communities are suffering as a result. And I refuse to allow us to continue to slide backwards. Now, don't get me wrong. We made a lot of great progress inside the district over the last 2 decades with the Cleveland plan. Some of that progress got delayed because of the pandemic. And as we come out of the pandemic over the last few years, we've seen dramatic gains. And we're almost back to what we were in terms of academic readiness and academic progress pre-pandemic. We got a 3-star rating for the first time in the history of CMSD last year. And the reason why our rating went down this year is because the state added a new requirement around military and college and career readiness, and our rating went down. You know why? The reason why is because in the majority of our high schools, kids can't have dual enrollment to get college credit before they go off to college. Or in the majority of our high schools, we don't have equal access to ROTC or other career readiness programs that you have in more innovative high schools that we have at the early college School of Science and Medicine at John Hay, right? And so this is about going from having islands of excellence to a system of excellence to ensure that equity is broad-based across the entire district. So it was a hard decision. We looked at a couple of factors. One, building quality. For example, Tremont Montessori, which is a great school, building quality is very low. So they're going into a brand new elementary school, and they're going to have an enhanced experience because the building's going to be a lot better. The second thing we looked at was population trends. Where have we seen a decrease in population? And the third thing we looked at was the quality of education inside that building. Because I refuse to do this and put kids in low-performing schools, right? So building quality, population trends, and school quality were some of the factors that went into how we made those decisions. Jerry, can you add to that?
Yes, Mayor. And I would just add, and Mr. Sharp, that was a great question. I've heard that question from so many different people around. Was this just a quick decision that wasn't well thought out? I would assure you all, gracefully, that there's been a lot of work put into this. This is not something that was just thought about a month ago in the recommendation I made in a couple of weeks. There's been months and months and months. I've read more reports on data and population than I care to admit. More financial reports and just so much over since I've been a board member, and I'll become a board member next December, so it's been about a year for me. But we thoroughly went through so much conversations and so much information to get to this point. So this has not been something that was just a quick thing. The CEO of the district and his cabinet has done tremendous work preparing for this over a long period of time. So it's really been a lot of work put into it, a lot of thought. This is a difficult situation. It's not an easy thing to do when you're trying to wrap your head around this big of a change. I don't think something this big has happened since probably desegregation. That's true. And so, to get to this point, there's going to be some difficult situations. There are going to be some difficult conversations to be had. And that's why I'm here to have so that we can figure out what's the best way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's your name? I'm Greg Burnett. I'm with the Lane. Do you know how many jobs will be cut? Teachers, principals, and all the people it takes to run the schools?
Well, right now, we're not contemplating massive teacher layoffs at all. One of the great things about this plan is while we're taking some schools offline in emerging buildings, that's going to allow us to put more teachers in classrooms across the entire district because our footprint will be more manageable. So that gives, and this extra funding, it's going to give us more money to invest to make sure there's computer tech in our high schools. It's going to give us more funding to make sure that every scholar, if they want to, can get out of one before they go off to the 9th grade. Did you know only 70% students across the entire district of CMSD are taking Algebra 1 before the 9th grade. Only 70. Only 70. Think about that for a second. That would never happen in Shaker Heights, would it?
No.
Or Beechwood.
Nope.
Or Orange. Right? And so, because we are shrinking our footprint, we're going to have an increase in savings, and we're going to take those savings to make sure that we have the high quality education and high quality extracurricular programs that we need to invest in across the entire footprint, because it's going to be a lot of money. Teachers are going to have to stay there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but the problem is, to your point, you know, the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled that the way we fund public education in our state is unconstitutional. Right? And we've essentially, this past year, we spent about $1 billion giving vouchers to wealthy families, subsidizing their ability to send their kids to private school. Right? So what if we took that billion and put it in urban education where it's needed the most? So these are the headwinds that we're dealing with to make sure that our children, our babies, get the same access that we have in the suburbs. Okay.
That leads to my question, Mayor. My name is Charles Bloom, I'm with everyone. I'm with the team movement, but kind of behind. As far as the issue of property taxes, that's not going to erode the idea versus Beechwood, Euclid, where I say, I mean, how should I put it? I mean, it's to my understanding, under this plan that you guys have, with, I mean, as far as the state, my question is, when the state, the money that you use from the state to operate the school system, that's not going to erode the whole idea of taking away from the police, that we will have more police, for example.
Well,
here's what
would happen. If the state, for example, eliminated property taxes, or they preempted our ability as a city or as a district to go to the voters for a levy, that would undermine our ability to raise additional funding to support CMSD. So that's the challenge we're faced with, making sure that we have an equitable property tax system, but also local control and local autonomy to administer the levies based on the needs of our school system.
So in other words, if I have an officer for the Cleveland Police Department, for example, he would be a resource officer for that child to make sure that that child is safe to go to school, for example?
I don't know if those things are tied together,
Okay.
because CMSD has its own funding to support public safety. Okay. One more question before we wrap up. Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name is Bernard Crenshaw.
Nice to meet you.
I teach at the Urban Community School in
Great.
I have two questions. One, what is that expected student-to-teacher ratio? I understand that you got too many kids and just one adult, it can get very difficult, and I was happy to hear that combining the emerging schools can lead to a higher teacher student ratio.
I don't know that exact ratio, but I will say this. Dr. Morgan and the board have prioritized making sure that we are not putting too many children in a classroom where the education suffers as a result. We want to make sure we continue to promote manageable to small classroom sizes to give our teachers the flexibility and autonomy they need to provide high quality education inside the classroom. I would also say this. One of the things I think that's positive about this merger, let's talk about John Hay, for example. You know, there are 3 different high schools right now inside of John Hay. So if I go to the John Hay School, Early College of Science and Medicine, and let's say I wanted to take an architecture class, I can't do that, right? So we have one high school with 3 different principals, 3 different curricula, and if a student wanted to, you know, have some flexibility in what classes they took, they can't do that now. Same thing with John Marshall. 3 different principals with 3 different curriculum. And before that, we had, how many different calendars did we have, Jerry, before the calendar got utilized? 5. We had 5 different calendars across the entire district, right? And that's costly, very costly. So, with this plan, things will be more streamlined, more manageable, and it gives the additional resources to make those kind of investments we talked about.
My second question was, I know schools like Harlem or Limbo are combining with area like outside community resources that can work build the community as a new community.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, so for example, we're in talks with the YMCA in the Collinwood, Glenville neighborhood about how may they be a partner to support us with that high school. We're talking to Cleveland Public Library about making sure they continue to support us with this merger. Tri-C as well. Tri-C's already expressed interest in taking over some of these buildings that we're taking offline. So there's been an overwhelming amount of folks coming to us to support us in this region. Okay, y'all, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Alice, to get rid of your parents. You gotta go.